Okay, so can you tell us about yourself?
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Reshan Richards. I'll spell that out here. I am an educator from, I live in Connecticut. I'm in the New York City area. And right now, I teach at Columbia University. And then I'm also the co-founder and one of the creators of an app called Explain Everything.
Wow. Well, how does Explain Everything help students and kids learn?
Well, I think it's really teachers and students who help themselves learn, and we just try to give people tools that let you do that in a better or more open-ended way. So one of the things that we've seen people do is really use kind of the free-form nature of the tool, in that anything that you add can be moved or organized around the stage, and you can literally import any type of file. So I think a lot of our focus has been on how do you make it so that you can use a tool like this, but not necessarily have to dramatically change all of the other systems you have. So we tried to really focus on making it a tool that was very open-ended, that fit in to whatever you might be doing. So we've seen teachers use it when they're giving instruction. We've seen students using it to show kind of what they know and to be able to talk and draw at the same time. We've seen people create interesting templates or activities that you might do within the app so that you can move things around. So it's really a lot of different ways that we've seen it help people, but our belief is that it's not the tool, but it's the people who are creative enough to figure out ways to use the tool to support their teaching and learning.
So you also solved my second question. So my third question is, why did you make Explain Everything?
So I have always been focused around non-traditional ways to communicate or demonstrate what you know and what you're able to do with what you know. I knew that when I was in school, I didn't think the measures, whether it was tests or quizzes or papers or lab reports or any of the traditional exercises that I was exposed to, really were an honest demonstration of what I was capable of. And so I just never felt satisfied with that. And then when I got into teaching, my first job teaching was as a math teacher in 5th grade. And I knew that, well, I of course had to follow the rules of what types of things that I asked my students to do. But I also wanted to find all sorts of other outlets for them to be able to be creative in demonstrating their understanding. And technology was the most helpful way for me to kind of find new ways. And ultimately, I got really interested in this process that we're doing right now, which is called screencasting and whiteboarding as a way for students in my math classes to demonstrate their understanding. So they would use the tool to, like, you know, even a simple algebra problem, maybe it's not so simple, I shouldn't call it simple, that they could hit record and show kind of the math that they were doing and be able to talk through it instead of just kind of filling out a worksheet or filling out a test or something like that. Look, I'm even doing the math wrong. I'm going to correct myself here. I bet you didn't know that this was also going to be a math lesson. So I knew that these types of interactions weren't just for math, but that it's all about just allowing to be creative and free in the way you express yourselves. So when I met my two now co-founders, they were also of a similar mentality that there are new ways for people to communicate, and the iPad or touch devices kind of unlock that. So that's kind of where the app came from.
So what makes Explain Everything unique?
I mean, I guess this is where it comes to like the technical aspects of the tool and what it can do. I'm going to open a new page here. Actually, am I back here? Oh, look, am I still there? I am. Hello. Let me move myself over here. So what's unique is that there's a combination of design tools. So that's stuff that you can add, whether it's drawings or shapes, or as I mentioned, pictures or even images, clipart. Let's see. Gina, you spell your name J-I-N-A, was that correct?
Yes.
J-I. It's inserting, I promise. Oh, here we go. So like anything that you imagine that you might want to work with, that you can add it to the stage and really do anything with it. So it was designed so that whatever was in your mind, you can actually visualize and talk through on here. So whether it's images, whether it's a document, whether it's even, like a website, all of these things kind of behave the same way. And I think that makes the experience unique. And then you throw on top the fact that I can hit this record button and everything that I'm doing and saying is actually being captured and can be played back. So I think that adds something. Let me add a camera back here. There I am again. And then the other part of it that people seem to get excited about is the fact that I can also set it up so you can collaborate in real time on this kind of open-ended space. So there's the whiteboarding and design, there's the recording, and there's the collaboration. And it's all pretty, at least in our opinion, user-friendly. I mean, you can even see on the screen, there's not a lot of language or words, and that the buttons try to represent as best as possible the actions that will happen, so that there's not a lot of learning needed in order to get started using it.
So, can you give one example of how teachers teach their students in new ways with Explain Everything?
Sure, that's a great question. I think that there's a natural progression from like doing things that you're already doing and then simply just replacing it out with an iPad or with our tool. So I mentioned that one of the things that a teacher might do is instead of using a slide deck and a Mac and a computer to show something on the screen, they might, instead of having to always turn back to write on the board, something simple you might do is have your iPad in your hand and you could use kind of wireless projection. So instead of this teacher or the instructor's back always kind of turning around and around to look at the students, you can change the dynamic where the instructor can wirelessly present at any time and still have the ability to kind of free form write that they might like on a chalkboard or a marker board or Post-its. But then students also now have this power that the chalkboard or the big board on the screen is no longer just for the instructor or the adult, but that everybody can very easily and very quickly take on the role of like a knowledge expert or a thinker or a sharer or whatever that might be. And I think that's a pretty important shift to me to kind of rethink, the structure of the knowledge authority in the room.
So, what would you do to make Explain Everything better?
Okay. Oh, well, there's always things. So this is the other part about our design philosophy is that it's not like we make something and just say, all right, use it. And then, if it needs updates or fixing, well, too bad. We're constantly listening to people to find out what their actual needs are versus us kind of deciding or predicting their needs. So, we're continuing to make improvements, especially around the collaboration and what's possible as far as being able to join in and work together. We're going to be adding some more fun elements to the design tools. Like, for example, I'll show you a quick example. So for a long time, we just had pens that you could draw things with. And then we added the ability to what's called like auto fillet. So it would kind of close the shape. And then we realized people wanted to be able to change that closed shape. So we added a paint bucket so you could fill. But these three things were not all developed at the same time, nor were they even in our plans. We always started here. And then as people kind of described the things that they were doing, we realized, okay, it's nice to have a free form shape, but sometimes you want to be able to make a solid shape, or sometimes you want to be able to change the color. So those things that get added are often by user request. Another one that is coming up soon, we've always had this ability to kind of be able to cut out things, and that's to be able to make a quick copy of what's happening. But as more people are doing stuff with photo and stuff, people might want to be able to do like a reverse cut or like an instant alpha where you erase part of something. So if I was going to add a photograph, okay, so if I was going to add a photograph like this one, this is at Disney World, Florida, not California, that I could find a way soon to be able to, you know, erase people and then like substitute them with other faces. Like I can, let me see, this is gonna be tricky. I've never done this before. Okay, I'm gonna look at the camera, looking at my face. Does that work? I can't tell if it worked or not. I wonder if I can't cut out video. Oh, I can't do that. All right, let me take a picture. Sorry if this demo has gone crazy. Oh, you saw my coffee cup. So look, I cut out my face. Oops. And now I could be on Dumbo too. So these are like little, you know, they seem like small things, but we get asked about putting such things in, and that's what guides our addition or development of new things.
So you already shared some tools. Would you like to share any more tools?
Well, let me see. Let me show you some cool things. I'm going to click home. I'm going to click discard. So one of the things that we added was, I don't know if you're familiar with like MIT's Scratch, which is like a programming environment community. And one of the things that we've always admired about that is that their community, it allows you not only to publish the things you make, whether it's a game or a program or whatever it is, but you also allow people to download what's called the source code and remix it or pull bits and pieces that you might want to use for yourself. So we created a similar community where people can publish stuff that they've made so that you could watch it, but you can also download and remix it or use pieces that might be interesting to you. So let me see like what's going on over here in art and design. So there's a lot of interesting content here. All right, so I might be very interested in this art lesson that was shared, and I can hit the get button and it'll allow me to have a copy of it. And now if I wanted to tell my own story about this character, I could, because that user has shared it. And then another thing is, I might like what this user has done so much that I can choose it. And we added this option, add as clip art. And now, even if I opened up a totally different project, in my clip art, I've now got that object that I can use anytime I want. So there's a lot you can do here, even just with this custom clip art option, to be able to have quick access to things that you might want to tell a story with or to do more details about. And that might be cool. The other thing is that it's a totally infinite canvas. So I can zoom as far out or in as I like. And then there's, of course, multiple slides. So there's kind of two dimensions. There's the linear nature, which is like going left to right, slide one, slide whatever it might be. But then there's also kind of this, what we can call like the z-axis of like 3D, where you can be as far in or out as you want. And that I think is also pretty interesting to people.
So is there something you haven't shared but you want to share?
Well, I think I talked through most of the features and the tools. You know, I'm curious about, especially the work that your team is doing. What kind of uses do you think that we haven't thought about yet, or maybe there's some tools or features that you think might be helpful. And you don't have to have an answer now. You can, of course, email us at me at Reshan at explaineverything.com. But just upon this quick demo, is there anything that you can think about that might be fun to do?
Well, I love to build and design, so I'm trying to design. I'm going to try to design a flying car. So maybe I'll use to explain everything.
Sure, you can do a couple of things. You could create first a sketch prototype of like what this flying car could look like. A lot of times in diagrams, you'll see like both the side view and then the top view. So, and then once you've got the diagram there, you could kind of write the details. This is that, and create labels so that somebody looking at the diagram might know. And then, of course, if you're getting even more detailed, actually, let me find my car. I'm going to copy that car. So actually, I'm going to copy this car to the best of my ability. Copy, paste. Then you can actually create an animation saying, here's today's car. Those are wings. And here's the car I'm trying to build. And so it might be a fun way to communicate your idea of what you want to build and what you want it to look like without necessarily needing to get too technical at first. And then, of course, you can start trying to figure out, well, what's actually necessary? Like what materials are needed? How much will it cost? Figuring out the engineering and those kinds of things. But it's good, to get buy-in and to help people understand your idea better. This might be a helpful way to quickly visualize your thinking.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and that was very helpful to know how Explain Everything works. And thank you for sharing this video on my blog.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was an honor.
Bye.
Bye-bye.